welcome to the Pages to Pixels podcast. I'm Kevin,
I'm Rohan.
and this week we are talking about the 97th Academy Awards, otherwise known as the Oscars, for 2025. We are recapping the night's events and awards, revisiting our predictions, and also talking about the ceremony itself.
Yeah, I mean, let's get into it. Why don't we just start with the big one? Best Picture goes to Anora. This was, I think by the time it happened, it was pretty obvious, both in the night of, as well as just leading up to it. It just, Nora was just kind of sweeping everywhere. I mean, it won PGA, I believe it won DGA, and usually when you win those awards, it's very, very obvious that that's the winner. I know that coming into award season, Brutalist had the most. I mean, they were that was kind of the favorite, but then as the award ceremony started coming out, all the momentum was with Anora.
I agree. I think when the when Anora got nominated, it was pretty clearly like in the top three with Amelia Perez and Brutalist.
Yeah.
But I don't think people anticipated that it would necessarily win. I don't know. I was feeling kind of mixed because I thought Anora really stood a good chance, despite the odds. Like, because usually it does kind of seem like the front runner falls. Plus, Anora had won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, which we've seen has been a really good indicator of success. I mean, every film that had been, the Palme d'Or, except for Titane in the last 5 years, have been nominated for Best Picture, and Parasite was the winner of Best Picture. So
Yeah, but Parasite was 5 years ago. That was the last time the Palme d'Or winner actually won. Well, I mean, with that said, I mean, you bring up Amelia Perez, which is interesting, because it was when the nominations were announced and you check the odds, it was Brutalist 1, Amelia Perez 2, and Nora, and then Amelia Perez started losing so much steam. I mean, there was a lot of controversies with with the people involved, the lead actress, of course, even the director, for some of his comments, saying that he doesn't need to, saying stuff like he didn't need to do any research on Mexican culture, even though he's not Mexican, he's French. So it just, by the time the awards actually rolled around, and I guess more than the awards, by the time the votes had kind of been cast, Amelia Perez kind of lost all of that steam.
yeah, and I mean, I don't know if the movie would have won, but I do think that one clear indicator of it losing that steam was it losing Best International.
Yeah.
To I'm Still Here, which it makes sense because I'm Still Here was also nominated for Best Picture. But that just really, I think also Amelia Perez struggled in that because it was like a Netflix release with Selena Gomez and Zoe Saldana. These are all well-known actors in America. I don't feel like Oscar voters would necessarily want to vote for that for Best International. It would be kind of like, oh, I'm gonna vote for this Japanese movie that's starring Robert De Niro. That wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree, and it is. I mean, when you're talking losing steam, it is interesting because Amelia Perez lost steam because it was a favorite to win Best International for a long time. But yeah, it's like you said, it is, even though it is technically international, it doesn't really feel that way because, like you said, it's Selena Gomez, Zoe Saldana, two major stars. There is, and I haven't seen I'm Still Here, so I don't want to discredit it in any way. But it definitely does not feel like that. And then, of course, the controversies that surrounded it with the people involved, but then also the actual content of the film. I remember when I first watched it, I was like, I enjoyed it. It's fine. And then I I learned more about it and I heard more about it, and my opinion changed. I mean, there's moments where I saw certain scenes and it didn't really like stand out to me, but then I thought about, but then I heard about stuff later, like a scene that stands out, and minor spoilers for Emilia Perez here. We may do minor spoilers for a lot of these films. Um, it's when, I mean, the main character Emilia, um, when she is trying to intimidate somebody after she transitions, she goes into a male voice and is threatening. When I first watched it, it kind of didn't jump out to me, and then later I realized, and credit to others for pointing it out, that it's not exactly the best representation of a trans woman. And well, and then I went, oh my god, you're right. And slowly but surely, even for me, this movie kind of went down.
I think I saw it after we did our coverage, and that was unfortunately the only Oscar movie I got to see. I really wanted to see Nickel Boys and The
Well, you
Bird
saw
Below
Nora.
before. No, I saw Nora before our Oscars video.
Okay, okay. I thought you were saying the only one you saw was Emilia Perez.
No, I meant after our
Got it.
nominations coverage, I saw Amelia Perez. I was uh, I just thought the movie was pretty boring and didn't really have anything of note. I can't really comment
Mhm.
on the cultural aspects. I mean, it sounds like it wasn't there. But for
Yeah.
me, I mean, I just think also I just thought the movie was like I thought there was some really cheesy and corny moments, especially with the musical stuff, like with Selena Gomez's character as well.
Yeah.
Um, I just thought it was a pretty unremarkable movie. I I'm surprised it got the most nominations. I just feel like
Yeah.
it was a musical that did really well, that had like Netflix backing, and they were like really wanted that campaign to run. And I mean, it was successful for Zoe Saldana, who I still don't think she was good in the movie personally, but I
Hmm.
think I liked her Oscar speech at least.
Yep. Um. Yeah. So I mean, real quick, I guess if we before we wrap up Best Picture, um, so Nora obviously won. Well, what is your favorite of the Best Picture nominees, though, of all of them
Um, I'm
that you
going to
saw?
say The Substance was my favorite of
Substance is
these.
great.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
really I wish I was rooting for it to get more nominations or get to more wins in the night. Like I think it winning Best Makeup really made sense, but I knew it was a long shot for Best Picture. I
Yeah.
thought that if it had any chance, it was from the fact that two of the top frontrunners started to go down and got controversy.
Uh-huh.
Nora even had some controversy, which I don't know how much you've heard about.
I've heard a little bit of Twitter controversy on not Sean Baker's tweets, but who he follows on Twitter.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Like that was the main thing. I feel like if you've seen Sean Baker's movies and you think he's the type of person that you like are trying to portray him as, um, I feel like that's you're fighting a losing battle. It doesn't really make any
yeah,
sense with the themes and the work that he's put into, specifically in Tangerine and Red Rocket. I don't understand why
yeah.
people could see this.
I mean, okay. I mean, if it was things he was actively seeing, I can understand. I think when you are targeting people for um, following accounts that have a certain political leaning, I follow people that I don't like, not because I like to see their content, but because I want to know what they're saying. And I just don't. I don't want my feed to be a full echo chamber uh, of only people that I agree with. There are times where I think it's okay to follow some people that you disagree with, just so you can hear their point of view, and then I mean you can create a educated rebuttal or whatever. I'm not saying that Sean Baker is doing it for that reason, but I'm just saying that I feel that going after him for following accounts is a little unfair.
For all we know, Sean Baker could be taking his phone and all of these with all of these accounts he follows and just bringing the phone around, being like, "Look how stupid this is," and then later he gets told, his whole crew gets told that he's a completely different person, that he supports all of it. They're
Yeah.
probably like laughing their ass off.
Honestly, I do that too sometimes, where I will follow accounts that I think are stupid, so I can laugh at them. And it's easier for it to pop up in your feed when you actually follow that person or that account and don't. Um, but I mean, since we're so real quick before we move on to I think best director, since we're already on the Sean Baker
Mhm.
topic, I think my favorite movie ended up being Conclave. It was a movie that when I first watched it, it was I was torn on it because I thought the first two acts were honestly quite boring, but the third act was so great that it made it up for me. And then just kind of as time's gone by, it's one that I kept thinking about, and like I really love that movie. Um, and the only two I haven't seen are Complete Unknown and I'm Still Here. Those two, I mean, they've just been less available where we live and not available on streaming either.
I think A Complete Unknown got completely goose egged, right? I don't think it got anything.
Yeah, I think so. I said I haven't seen the movie. I've seen about the first half
Mhm.
on streaming. I haven't finished it, but I think it's fine. Musical biopics tend to get a little bit formulaic.
Yeah. The most
Um,
memorable thing from A Complete Unknown in this race was there was an article where an Oscar voter tweeted or like wrote, "A Complete Unknown, Best Picture is my vote. Hollywood doesn't make movies like this enough or anymore." It's
yeah,
like
it's like
literally
musical
every
biopic.
year there's a musical biopic.
Yeah,
Wasn't there like three or four last year? Because there was like Bob Marley, Elvis. There was so many. I don't think Elvis was last year, but that
yeah.
was a year
I
too.
think Elvis was year before that.
But
But there's plenty of musical biopics out there. I don't think Clean Unknown was the only one this year.
well, what did you make of Sean Baker's Best Director speech?
I thought it was great. He had a lot of speeches, so I don't know. I believe this is the one where he said, "Go watch movies in theaters." Correct?
Yeah, it was. He was like, independent theaters are dying. This is how you can save it. This is studio, and he was basically pleading to the studios, like, produce your movies for the theater experience. Don't produce it for the streaming experience.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I don't
I
think
thought it
he's saying
was.
like, sorry, I don't think he's
No, go
saying
ahead.
like streamers need to go away. I don't think that that was the point of his speech. The point is theater going is a part of movie culture. And if we love movies and making them or watching them, whichever side you're on, going to the theater is going to keep up that culture. And I thought it was a really important sentiment to express that I haven't seen enough filmmakers express at the Oscars.
I agree, and it's. I feel like Hollywood is having this whole thing where there's theaters and there's streaming services, and they're against each other. But I disagree. I think that I think that theaters will help streaming actually. I want to give an example of Top Gun, the year it came out. It was the second highest grossing movie of the year after Avatar. But before Avatar came out, Avatar came out in December, Top Gun came out in May. So for the longest time, it was the highest grossing movie of the year. Um, and then, so it had a full theatrical run, which there was actually some whispers about it having a day and day release on streaming and theaters, but they never did that. They had a full theatrical run. And then it came out on VOD, and it was the number one movie on VOD. Um, and then it came out on streaming, and it was the number one movie on streaming that year when it finally hit Paramount Plus. And I think that there is, people go to the theaters, especially for kind of a movie like that. They see it in IMAX. They are enthralled by it, but then they talk to everyone, and then some people who didn't get to see it in theaters, they'll watch it on VOD, or the people who did, they want to rewatch it, and then finally it's on streaming again. Same thing, people rewatch it, or they're like, oh my god, I heard so much about this when it was in theaters. I gotta watch this. Generally, when a movie goes straight, I've noticed when a movie goes straight to Netflix, it kind of just it comes out, people talk about it for maybe a weekend, and then it doesn't really have that lasting impact. Um, So I think, yeah, you release your studios, release your movies in theaters, and then put it on streaming.
I could be wrong. We may have already said this before, but the like Netflix's CEO saying like Oppenheimer would have the same amount of cultural impact if it was direct to streaming on Netflix as opposed to if it went in the theater. Um, and again,
Yeah, I
I
disagree.
disagree with that. Oppenheimer is like a big theatrical experience. You cannot get that at your home. Um,
I also really loved Conan's little bit of Cinema Plus, the streaming service, where it's like it's in a building meant for movie.
that bit was really funny, and it kind of it helped it validate the point that was made later on.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to say about uh best director, or is there someone that you think you would that, or is there, would you have chosen someone else over Sean Baker?
To be honest, no. I did love The Substance, and I would not choose Jacques Audiard for Amelia Perez, but I
Yeah.
think that Sean Baker has been deserved. Like, talk about like deserving awards. Like, he's made like four bangers, and so I'm
Yeah.
perfectly happy with Sean Baker getting it.
Yeah, and I think of those five, I think Honora was my favorite. So Sean Baker is obviously he won, and he was my personal favorite. All right, let's go on to Adrian or Brody winning Best Actor.
Not
So
surprising, um, but his speech was very long.
yeah, I mean, it kind of was like The Brutalist, where uh you had where it started great, and then they had a musical intermission when they started playing him off, and then we had the second half. I think I gotta say, have you seen the video going around of Cillian Murphy just patiently standing there waiting for him to finish speaking?
No, I haven't actually. I should have paid attention because I'm like, I know he's there somewhere.
Yeah, it's hilarious because I mean, I think even the official IMAX account tweeted a picture of Cillian Murphy standing there, and they said, if I send you this, it's time to wrap it up. But yeah, I mean, I thought Adrian Brody deserved it. It did come down to a bit of a two-horse race between him and Chalamet, because Chalamet really surprised by winning SAG, um, and that kind of I was like, oh, well, it could be Chalamet, but it ultimately ended up being Brody. I think that was the correct choice. Again, from what I've seen of A Complete Unknown, I did prefer Brody's performance.
hmm
Uh, I mean, if I got to choose, I would have given it to Ray Fiennes for Conclave.
I haven't seen these nominees, so I'm not sure entirely how to feel about them. But they're all well-known actors and great in their own right. I wish that um, Sebastian Stan were nominated for A Different Man instead, so that way I could say I've seen one because he is also good in that one. But with Ray
Yeah,
Fiennes, like from the trailers, like he does look like it does look like his performance is really great. So I feel like maybe he just lost out on the fact that Brutalist is a 3 hour long like epic, and then
yeah,
Timothy Chalamet is a very well known young actor. I think he
hmm
probably just didn't have like the priority that those other two movies had in voters'
yeah.
minds.
There's also a report, and these anonymous ballots they come out every year. I don't put too much stock into them because it's like, hey, two Oscar voters said this, but I mean, how many members of the Academy are there voting? There's like hundreds. So two out of like hundreds are saying one thing. I don't know if it actually represents everyone, but they said that they did not vote for Ray Fiennes because they thought um, he already won an Oscar, and they're like, hey, let's award Adrian Brody, who deserves it. And the ironic thing is, Ray Fiennes has never won an Oscar, and Brody has. Uh, it's funny how that how that works out.
Oscar voters.
Yeah. Um,
um,
all
well, let's
right.
move on to Best Actress then.
Yeah. another one of the Nora, another one for Nora. Um,
Mhm.
Mikey Madison, well deserved. I personally liked Demi Moore better. That is who I was rooting for, but I
Same.
can't complain.
At least it led to the memes of like this is literally what happened in this episode.
Yeah.
I
uh,
I also prefer Demi's performance, but I will say I'm really happy for Mikey Madison because I think she not only does deserve the award, but also it's like because it's like this character does feel like it was made for her almost more than
yeah.
Demi Moore. Like Demi Moore, I think she gives the best performance you can for the role. But
Mhm.
it seems like Sean Baker almost wrote Honora, saw Mikey Madison, was like, she is my Honora, and like he
Yeah.
created an Oscar just from that, and I think that's a pretty good story.
Yeah, I think that is the true test um of an actor, where can you picture somebody else in that role and does it still work? Um, I cannot imagine anyone other than Mikey Madison in Honora. With Demi Moore, I think I probably could imagine someone other than her in Substance. Not that I'm saying that she didn't deserve it. I mean, obviously, it's who I wanted. Um, but yeah, kind of echoing what you said. It's Mikey Madison. If she felt like she was born to play Nora.
Um,
All right, all right. Now let's talk about the supporting roles together. For actor, it was Kieran Culkin for Real Pain, Zoe Saldana in for actress in uh, Emilia Perez. What are your thoughts on these two?
I kind of touched on it earlier, but I don't like Zoe Saldana's performance. I thought it just doesn't work for me at all. I feel like this is a it felt kind of like a gifted Oscar rather than it was like a very rewarding one. But I also can't really comment on the rest of the nominees. But my hot take is that I think Ariana Grande was better in Wicked than she was in Emilia Perez, which I know you disagree with. But I don't know. I mean, at least Ariana like can do those silly like high notes to fit the
Mm-hmm.
role of Glinda. But Zoe
Yeah,
Saldana, like I don't know, it was probably just like the direction because I think she's a good actress. I'm not disagreeing
yeah.
with that, but
I actually really like Zoe Saldana in Emilia Perez. I think she is kind of. I think her performance is what fooled me into actually enjoying the movie when I originally saw it. That said, I think she didn't feel like a supporting actress when you watch the movie. Um,
no.
it really felt like she was the lead. Um, Honestly, I would have if I were Netflix, I would have submitted Zoe Saldana for lead and Carlos Sofia Gascon for supporting because I think that's what's more accurate. That said, they probably you submit them on where you think they actually have a chance to win. Um,
hmm It felt like
yeah,
Lakeith Stanfield and what's that movie called? It's Lakeith Stanfield and Daniel Kaluuya.
I can only
Uh,
think of Get Out. Which one?
so it's kind of like Lakeith Stanfield and Judas and the Black Messiah. Like he is
Oh,
the
okay, yeah,
main character in that. Daniel Kaluuya is um, the effect of the Black
yeah,
Messiah. Literally, the movie's called Judas, and he is like the Judas, but they put him in
yeah,
supporting. Really
hmm
confusing. Um, I
yeah,
mean, I sort of get where you're coming from, but I will say Zoe Saldana disappears in like the last like in like the middle of the movie where she's just not there um,
yeah.
for a long time. So
Um,
I sort of
but she does
understand.
come back also.
hmm
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
what about Kieran Culkin?
yeah. Actually, real quick, for actress, I think my choice would have been Felicity Jones.
Mm,
But it's a really long movie, and she's only in the second half of it, so I get it. Kieran Culkin for Best Supporting, I think, very much deserved that win. Uh, I thought he was great. Another one, kind of like Mikey Madison, he he got to that level where I cannot imagine anyone in that role other than him.
that definitely seemed like a um, yeah, I totally agree with that. Even though I haven't seen the movie, I do feel that, especially in his speech when he thanked Jesse Eisenberg. Like it sounded like this
Yeah.
was also just like this is written with one character, one type of actor in mind, and Kieran Culkin fit it the best. He's
Yep.
definitely on like a hot streak. Like, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
he's got the Emmy, now he's got the Oscar,
Hmm.
he's got Scott
Just need the
Pilgrim.
Grammy and Tony.
Why don't we move on to Best Animated Feature with Flo beating out The Wild Robot? I'm
Yeah.
sure you're very disappointed.
I am, but so I'm disappointed that the Wild Robot didn't win. But I am also happy for Flo. I think I would have been upset if I would have been more upset if Inside Out was the one that won it because I don't think Inside Out 2 was all that special compared to it didn't do anything new that kind of the first one didn't do despite being a really good movie. And it
Oh,
would have just felt like
that it was Kirchner's heart shattering into a million pieces.
uh and I also felt like it doesn't I was or sorry, it feels like that's another part of the Disney kind of machine. I it's awesome to see a small indie picture win it. And I'm hoping that now more people will check out Flow. Wild Robot, it's sure it didn't win the Oscar, but you know what? It made a ton of money, so that they should be happy with that. The fans like me should be happy
Mhm.
with that, and maybe now more people are going to check out Flow. So I think it's awesome to see a smaller movie win it.
Yeah, and I mean, what I've read about Flow is that it was animated in Blender, for like very little money. Um,
Yeah.
so if if anything inspires you as a filmmaker to just like go out there and try, like Blender is a free animation software. Like they really didn't. I think they had what a budget of like 5K. Like there's
I
there's
don't know
so
if it
much
was
that you can
that
do.
low. Uh,
I'm not sure.
but I want to say it was like 3 to 4 million. Yeah, it's about 3.6 million.
Okay, I'll resend that take. I guess I'm not sure where I got the number from, but I saw it like that. Anyways,
Mhm.
but yeah, no, Flow was made for a very low budget, but it's also made in a free animation software called Blender. So it's like
Yep,
that that is really impressive to me that that was able to win the best animated feature.
yep. Let's talk about the screenplay winners. Best original screenplay goes to Anora, just another one of its 5 Oscars.
Mhm.
Um, and it felt like it was coming down to this and a real pain. I think by the end of it, Anora did have the momentum. I personally would have preferred to see a real pain win it. But yeah, again, I thought Anora was very, very well written.
I think if A Real Pain were nominated for Best Picture, it could have won the award.
Yeah,
But the award for Best Original Screenplay. But I
yeah.
think the fact that it missed did hurt its chances a lot. But I think still Honora's really impressive. I think I would have voted for The Substance between the two actually because
Substance is
I
great.
just I just really love the writing. I think yeah, it is a very obvious movie, but um it's also funny. It's also really chaotic. I love
Mhm.
also some of the ways that they like um there's like a scene that was posted around. I was like of the turkey leg
Oh yeah,
scene and like just like the noises they put in the
yeah.
script. It sounds really funny to me. Like I don't
Hmm.
know. I love how that movie came together.
Yeah. I think I said this to you, where every movie has a log line, and which log line slash premise. And there's a ton of movies out there where um, when you read the premise, it's a super interesting premise, but the movie oftentimes doesn't live up to the premise. The Substance is one of those where I think there is no stone unturned when it comes to the execution of that premise. They will every single thing that you could possibly think of, the Substance does, and it delivers, and it holds it all together, so it's still coherent. And I think that's super impressive. So I think The Substance is another one where if that was the winner, I would have been very happy.
Same here. I wish it got more wins over the night, but Honora is a
Yeah.
great winner as well.
Mhm.
And speaking of winners for best adapted screenplay, Conclave won, and I believe that was its
Yeah.
only award.
Yeah, sorry, what?
I believe that was its only award for the night.
I think so. It deserves best. I thought it deserved best adapted screenplay. That is a movie where it's all dialogue. The entire movie is people talking to each other. There's not much action in it. There's nothing. If you look at the others, A Complete Unknown has music. Amelia Perez has a bunch of musical sequences. Nickel Boys is a super creative way of shooting the movie where all of it is point of view. I haven't seen Sing Sing, but again, a bunch of like it is a musical. Um, Conclave is it's all talking, and um, and it's great.
I'm definitely going to check out Conclave soon. Um, because of I think like when it comes to watching these movies, it's more about like accessibility and time. It does seem like
Yeah.
Conclave is like the most available of them. And then maybe the next would be like Nickel Boys, which I would want to see.
hmm I believe Conclave is streaming on Peacock. I could be wrong about that, but
That is like one of the ones that like some people just don't have.
yeah. All right. Now let's talk about, in my opinion, what was kind of the moment of the night, which is Best Documentary Feature. No Other Land winning it. Now, if you don't know what No Other Land is, it's a film about Israel and Palestine. It is not about Gaza, that is currently happening right now. It's more about the West Bank. As that's as far as I know because I have not seen it. Why haven't I seen it? Because by the time that it actually won the Oscar, there was no U.S. distributor, um, and it overcame that to still win the Oscar. I haven't seen all the other ones. I have seen Black Box Diaries, great movie. I've also seen Sugarcane, also a great movie. I think No Other Land winning, despite me having not seen it, I think it deserved it because of how topical it was. I cannot wait to see it, and I thought it was also the best speech of the night from the two directors. I don't know if I'm going to say their names right, but it's Basil Adra and Yuval Abraham. Um, if you haven't seen the speech, I would say go watch it. I can't do it justice by repeating it or talking about the same, uh, or trying to summarize it. It's not a very long speech. It's not the Adrian Brody speech, um, but it's that I think it was just a monumental achievement, and that's I think even more than Honora, that's what I'm going to remember from this ceremony.
I have mostly positive feelings about it. I think my biggest worry is that, usually when it comes to documentary, every year I do feel like the topic of like the war, like the current war, I believe that the one that
Yeah.
when last year was about Ukraine. I could be correct me if I'm wrong, but I do worry sometimes like are voters just kind of blindly voting for the topical one, or are they voting for the film for its like monumental achievement? I think either way in this, it's hard to avoid this kind of like achievement because of the collaboration of the directors. Like it seems like this was a very big effort, um, and um, in looking up some more like information about the film, it wasn't just two directors; it was actually like four directors. So it's like there's a lot of hands in the honey
Okay.
pot with this
Yeah.
one. Um, that I think, yeah, I know we only got to hear from two, but there was like more people. Like, um, I don't know. It's very impressive that it was able to win. I do want to see it because I like hope that I don't know. I just think if you win an Oscar, you should get some U.S. distribution. Let's talk about the ceremony. Typically, we have our hosts with the not the most Jimmy Kimmel, but we had Conan this year, um, who started the ceremony off by climbing out of Demi Moore's um, skin, and then uh, I don't know, just like how did you think he did, like as a host with his jokes or with just how he presented the nominees and everything?
Yeah, I thought Conan was great. I actually don't hate Jimmy Kimmel as the host. I just was, it was starting to feel like, okay, is this a permanent thing where it's him again and again and again? So I like Conan as a breath of fresh air. I thought some of the jokes he did was great. I really liked the one about Carlos Sofia Gascon's publicist. I also really like his Kendrick Lamar joke at halftime.
Ooh, that one was. I thought the one that was like a little bit, oh, like I wasn't sure how to feel was the when he brought out all of the firemen for the LA fires, and there was a joke in there as well that was like, ooh,
Are you talking about the Joker Folie à Deux?
yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the one that I really liked. I didn't really like the other two.
It, I personally, I was kind of torn on Conan. I don't feel like he had like a huge presence. Also don't. I didn't find his jokes to be that funny, but I liked that they were. The reason why I hate Jimmy Kimmel is because he's not. Like laughing with you and laughing at you. His jokes are all laughing at you, whereas I do feel like Conan's were laughing with you. Like we can poke fun at ourselves, but Jimmy
That's fair.
Kimmel is literally just every joke is about how he hates movies and he doesn't want to be there. Like that's or it's about
Yeah.
something that's just like completely irrelevant to movies and just is
Yep.
really irritating. So
That's fair.
yeah, and
Mm.
I liked the production value of the Oscars this year. Like with I especially liked when they announced the like some of the smaller winners, like they recognized the efforts of the nominees, like one by one with people from the movies or like with actors. And I thought that was
Yeah.
really a nice touch. It made it feel like every award in the ceremony was as important as Best Picture.
Yeah. I agree actually, and I know ironically we're not talking about all of those awards. That's due to our own time constraints.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff with work and just then the edit and all that. We don't really have a big team like the Oscars do. So I appreciate that they put uh, a lot of effort and went out of their way to honor the smaller awards. When in the past the conversation has been, hey, how do we fix the awards show? And they were like, let's just not air those technical awards.
Oh, that was crazy.
And
That.
yeah, yeah, I will say I was not a fan of some of the musical performances. They just felt um, random,
Yeah.
and it's always I understand why they went away from uh, doing the best song nominees because by doing performances with the best songs, you kind of do spend more time on that one category than everything else. At the same time, I don't think the solution is let's just do musical performances that are irrelevant to the movies that are being um, nominated and awarded. Um, I don't know what the solution is, but I don't think that this was it.
And I mean, it started out fine with like I get Defying Gravity performance. Like
Mm-hmm.
that makes so much sense. It's the same
Yeah,
thing as like if we don't talk about Bruno played for Encanto. Like that was just a huge
right.
song in that year. Defying Gravity is like the defining song of Wicked. It makes sense why
Yep,
that was there. But everything else, like the Bond tribute, felt really confusing. It was in a year
yep.
where there was no Bond movies. I know it was probably like an anniversary. I mean, I didn't need to hear these
And
covers. They were not good.
yeah. And yeah, they didn't even bring out I mean, they didn't bring out the original singers. They didn't bring out any. I mean, I know that both Sean Connery and Roger Moore aren't with us anymore, but we have Daniel Craig, we have Timothy Dalton. Could have brought. We have Pierce Brosnan. You could have brought any of them on stage,
hmm
but they. but they did. It felt, or I mean, I expected, hey, are they going to announce something? Are they announcing the next Bond? Nothing. It just felt like filler, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. And usually the musical performances do not feel like filler,
Yeah,
but this year it just did not. I just don't feel like they did anything. I can't even really
yeah,
remember the others apart from the Bond tribute, but
yeah, yeah. And I think this is something that they're trying to do this because they are concerned about ratings. And I know that ratings have kind of gone down for the Oscars, although the past 2 years they've been ticking back up. I think one thing to point out though is um, domestically, as in America, it's still the second highest watched televised event
Mhm.
after the Super Bowl. So, I think this leads to a larger conversation of people complaining that the Academy is quote unquote out of touch. And this is actually something that I want to talk about because of the nominated movies. A lot of people look at that list and they're like, I don't know these movies other than maybe Dune and Wicked. I think when you talk about movie fans, they kind of fall into three camps. It's obviously kind of a spectrum, but there are people like us who are cinephiles. We keep our ears to the ground about new movies coming out. And then there is a second camp, which is people that they are not necessarily like us, where they are watching all the movies, but they do watch quite a few, maybe more than the average person. They are interested in them. I have a cousin that I think would kind of fall into this camp, and then I have a friend who falls into another camp of just the casual fan. They might watch two, maybe three movies that
Mhm.
come out that year. Maybe they'll watch something like way later on streaming. And I mean, I was talking to him, and he's like, "Hey, I don't know any of these movies," and there are plenty of people like him, and the response has always been, "Let's point the finger at the Academy for being out of touch and not nominating movies that people are watching." Um, but then it always just and then you have more pundits who they kind of bring in their own opinions where they go, "Well, no, you can't. The audience doesn't watch like the and this is where I think people get pretentious. They don't watch the good movies. They just want to watch the Hollywood schlock, which I think is disrespectful to the audience. Because again, that friend that I am referring to, I won't use his name. He's a really smart guy. I think if you were to watch a movie like Anora, he would actually like it quite a bit. I think the issue is actually the Hollywood system. When I talk about the system, I mean the studios. Oh, they
Mhm.
are. I'm going to use Deadpool and Nora as an example. They are giving Deadpool hundreds of millions on marketing, and they are telling everybody this is the movie of the year. This is the event of the year. You do not want to miss this because if you miss this, you will be lost in the cultural. Um, like this is a cultural touchstone that you will not be a part of. So you have to go to theaters and watch this movie. And what happens? People went and watched it, and it made $1 billion. Honestly, I think you give that same push to Anora, maybe not doesn't make $1 billion, but it makes way more money than it actually does. And I think more people will love uh, that movie. I I think the issue is really where studios choose to put their effort in marketing. And honestly, I'm glad that sometimes we have these movies that people have never heard of because now, for example, my friend who's never heard of Nora, now he has, and he might actually go watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the importance of the Oscars, and I think that's lost on a majority of, I'm going to say Americans, not necessarily all moviegoers. Because I just feel like, for the most part, every year, even with big, like, I mean, I'm going to call it a blockbuster, even with Oppenheimer being a
Yeah.
blockbuster, even with Everything Everywhere making well over its budget, every single movie I feel in the past few years that has won like a Best Picture has almost always been treated the exact same way by the casual audience. The casual audience feels that superhero movies, horror movies, or some big named action movie are the three big movies of the year and
Hmm.
nothing else. But what I'm always confused about is like what do you actually want to be nominated then? Because when people say like, "Oh, these aren't movies that we're watching them," for anyone that's saying that, my question would be, okay, well, what movies that you watched do you feel should be in Best Picture? Because I mean, I know that everyone has different tastes, but there's no way that like three Marvel movies and one DC movie is going to be the lineup for Best Picture. That's
Yeah.
not happen. There's no way, even as a big horror movie fan, there is no way that there was going to be anything more than just The Substance this year. Like,
Hmm.
The Substance is like an anomaly, and that's a movie that people genuinely watched. And I fear that if that movie was actually going to win Best Picture, like if it, let's say it was on track to win it, there would be people coming up and saying that movie's not as good as they say. Like that's just no one really watched that. People say this like every single year.
Yeah.
Many people went to see Anora. I do think it struggled a bit in the theater, but still, it had people going to the theater. Um,
Right.
and I think it's just a testament to its skill that it's able to win over the Oscar voting body, who are mostly older. And if they're so out of touch, then why is it they like a movie that's so modern and
Hmm.
empathetic about its subject matter, to which an older audience is honestly not going to be as empathetic towards, like to put it frankly. So I
Yeah.
don't really understand why this always seems to be the case, but for me, I think
Yeah.
that Anora really exemplifies like a change in how the Oscars have been voting lately.
Yeah. I mean, I think they've gotten better. I know that they've made a lot of efforts to expand their voting body, and I think results have been better. Parasite winning, Everything Everywhere All at Once winning, for example. And those are movies that may not have won um, 10 years ago.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, again, my point is, if you're like a pundit or a podcaster or someone on TV like us, don't point fingers at the audience. Don't call them tongue. Don't disrespect the people like that. Point the fingers at the people who are pushing um, pushing the narratives, or pushing the, point the fingers at the executives. They're spending all this money. If you're in the audience who haven't seen these movies, try it out. I mean, there's a good chance that you'll probably like a lot of them. You may not like everything, but I think you probably will. I genuinely believe that most people will who watch Nora will like Nora.
I completely agree with that, and I share the same sentiment. Like, just watch new movies. Watch, like, there's an endless amount of cool stuff out there that you have
Mm,
not been able to see, and that you're, like, restricting yourself from enjoying, all for the sake of, oh, well, pretentious people like that. Pretentious people are people. Pretentious people just happen to like things, right? Like, I don't
yeah,
think that Nora is a pretentious movie, honestly.
no,
Honestly, I think
not
it's
at all.
so far from it.
That is our thoughts on the Oscars for 2025. Hope you all enjoyed. I'm Rohan,
I'm Kevin.
and we'll see you next time for our next episode of Pages Pixels. Thank you.
Thank you.